Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So there I am, in the gym of all places, with a whole bunch of weight on my back, doing squats, tears streaming down my face. It was unbelievably awkward. I've been embarrassing myself in the gym a lot recently. One of the great joys of being set up from home, like my big change that I made in 2018 was I set up a studio from the house, and that allows me to make it to the little gym in my complex every once in a while. And I go because you and I have talked about this in the past. It's a way of managing depression. I'm not trying to be gym guy or weight dude or bro or any of those things. Not trying to get jacked or yoked or shredded. It's just a way of sort of managing emotion that is very important that my shrink recommended to me several years back. And it's been a game changer of a thing, being able to get in and do it. But I've been embarrassing myself in the gym lately. Like today, I'm there trying to squat more than I squatted last week. And I'm glad that that thing faces a mirror on a wall. So I wasn't facing outward, and the other people couldn't see the tears coming down. I embarrassed myself the other day too, when my earbud fell out, and I guess I had it turned up rather loud, and the entirety of the gym realized at that moment that I work out unironically to Europe's The Final Countdown. So there was that too. It's been an awkward week in the little gym community. And I guess the reason I was crying was not because I was struggling under the weight. It was because, and you probably had this happen to you as well. Unless you were closely connected to it, you probably had this happen to you as well. Where you'd kind of heard about it. You kind of maybe seen a headline as you were making your way through the day. For me, I didn't really cotton on to what was going on. It was a crazy day. And by the way, if you heard the show that we did recently and you were concerned that perhaps we didn't address it, you have to understand that the events hadn't happened in some of the markets. The events of the day hadn't happened yet. And you were hearing in some of the markets we're on in an account of some completely different goings on, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm going through my day. I had all this stuff to do, a mountain of work. I had to go to the dentist. That was fun. And so I wasn't really keeping track of what was happening. I saw little bits and pieces here and there. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is a thing that happened, and it's finally happened. I'm desensitized to this. There's enough of this kind of tragedy that's become part of our daily routine where I'm desensitized to it, and it's not the emotional gut punch it used to be. And then you take these little rests, like you try and crank out however many reps one has to do in the gym, and then you got to rest for a little bit. And so I flipped open my phone, see what was happening on Twitter as I'm taking my 1.5 minute rest that I've been advised to take between sets. And I see the headline again. And I see that the number has grown. And it registers with me for the first time in the day. And I realize it does affect me. And I get under the squat rack and I try and bang out those last 5 reps. And somewhere around the third one, it happened. It kicked in. Tears streaming down my face as I'm struggling under this weight. Trying to keep it together because there's people around me. And I realize all of a sudden what the families of the students that are no longer with us in Florida must be going through. And I can't stop. I can't stop the tears. I just can't. And so I remain facing the wall. I take a walk outside and I bawl my eyes out. I just couldn't stop. For the better part of a half hour. Couldn't stop. And I realized, I guess, I'm not desensitized to it. And how could any of us be? And This is not the time to jump in with opinions and politicize and use it to further some kind of agenda, which people on both sides of this argument that we seem to be having over and over again are already doing. But there's one thing that I'm going to beg you to do in the wake of what happened in Florida.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So we know now there was another horrible school shooting yesterday. It's hard to believe that we're talking about it, but it happened. And I wanted to address something, which we talked a little bit about in the first segment. If you caught yesterday's show last night, I want you to understand that we weren't jovially making our way through the day, pretending like it hadn't happened. The show originally went out before this had happened, and if you were getting it in a market where this was airing after the fact, I want you to know it wasn't out of our desire to block out the fact that it happened. Plenty of people did that on the air, and I can certainly understand it, because there's plenty of people that, well, don't feel as though it's their place to talk about this sort of thing. And I understand that, and I get that, and I respect that. But when you and I gather here to talk about what's on our mind, the purpose is so you, me, all of us can work through it together. Now, obviously, this show airs on a couple of stations in Florida where this hits home. It happened at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. When we last checked in, 17 people were killed. Now, for those that don't know, Parkland is in southeast Florida. It's about a half hour north of Fort Lauderdale. And that makes it one of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. And the fourth deadliest shooting at a school. It's also already the 18th school shooting in America in 2018. 18th in 2018. And it's mid-February. The shooter, 19-year-old former student by the name of Nicholas Cruz. He was expelled from school for disciplinary reasons, and according to the police, his social media history is, quote, very, very disturbing. He posted about guns and violence, talked about killing people with an AR-15, posed with BB guns, shotguns, and knives. He used an AR-15 semi-automatic, the same weapon that was used in the Vegas and Texas church massacres last year, and the Pulse shooting in Orlando, where this show airs, on WTKS in 2016. Same rifle that was used in the San Bernardino attack in 2015, and at Sandy Hook in 2012. He may have pulled a fire alarm to draw kids out of class toward the end of the day and make the death toll as high as possible. He had multiple magazines with him, but a lot of people thought the fire alarm was suspicious, since there had already been a fire drill that day. Of the 17 victims, 2 were killed outside the school, 12 died in the school, 1 died on the street, another 2 died at the hospital. 13 other people ended up at the hospital as well. The shooter initially got away afterwards, maybe by blending in with the other kids who were running. But the police quickly caught him. Now he's in custody, which is unbelievably rare in these situations. In the other 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, the shooter was killed or killed himself. We're not entirely sure of what the motive is right now. Both of his parents, his adoptive parents, are dead. Now, there's one thing I'm going to beg you to do. I've seen it. I've seen the posturing. I've seen the arguing. I've seen the anger on both sides. I've seen people on both sides of the argument, mostly not civilians, mostly my fellow members of the media, which makes me ashamed. But I've seen them use this to capitalize. I've seen them use this to elevate their status or manipulate it for their own gain or the gain of some agenda. And it's happened. It's happened every single time. It has happened every single time. Look, the show's on in Orlando, and we went on the day after the Pulse nightclub shootings. But that was a bit of a different situation. That was a situation where it was a deliberate attack on an LGBT community. It was also perhaps a lone wolf ISIS attack situation as we were trying to make sense of it all. So it immediately became all these different issues. It became the issue of terrorism. It became the issue of violence against the LGBTQ community. It became an issue of gun control. It also became an issue for many people saying, I don't ever want my gun taken from me. Those people didn't have a chance. This is my last line of defense. And the one thing that came out of the Pulse nightclub shootings, the one thing that really rang true for me, was I listened to all these people passionately talk about what it was that they were most afraid of in the wake of that shooting. What it was they were most afraid of. And I think there's a lesson to be learned from that, which we must apply to this.
None higher, circus in the age, you call me sire. Think you're gonna be the one to take me down and guess again? No. Whoa. Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day. And for part of the battle, just bow down, better act like you know. Whoa.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So, I think the thing that the Pulse nightclub shooting taught me, or that I learned from it, was that everybody in the wake of what had happened basically talked about what they were afraid of. It was an act of terrorism. It was a hate crime that was perpetrated against the LGBTQ community. It was a gun control issue. We've got to get these guns off the street. It was a gun control issue to people who felt completely differently, who felt, I don't ever want my last line of defense to be taken from me. The police couldn't get there soon enough. There was nothing they could do. I don't ever want my ability to defend myself in a situation that's similar to that one to be taken from me. Please don't take it from me. These are scary times. And what I realized when that happened was that everyone was right. Everyone was just talking about what it was they were afraid of, what their fear looked like, what their fear compelled them to do. And everyone has a right to that. And so I think what I'm begging people to do in the wake of this is, rather than, and I've seen it already, and I'm ashamed to say that I'm a member of this community. I'm a member of the media. Some of these folks are not necessarily my coworkers, but this is the world I inhabit. And I've seen people already thoughtlessly argue their agenda in these situations. And it's just not okay. And people are hotly debating, and people are fighting amongst each other, and people are going back and forth on social media, and people are angry and hurt and upset. And I get that. I do. But people are also selfishly managing to use this for their own gain. And that's not okay, like I said. But to the people that are passionate about these issues of gun control, these issues of mental health, every last one of the issues that this touches, which is a lot. I kind of feel the same way I felt about the shooting at Pulse, which is, you're all entitled. Every last one of us is entitled to our fear. Every last one of us is entitled to our concern. Every last one of us is entitled to our way of grieving. But every time we argue with someone who believes a solution is different to ours, we do a disservice to the kids that lost their lives and their families. Nobody, no matter what it is they believe, no matter if you believe that a good guy with a gun would have saved the day, no matter if you believe all guns must be taken off the street, as vastly different as those viewpoints that are being expressed are, there's not a single person that doesn't wish this hadn't happened. And so the dissent, the disagreement, the arguing, the aggressive, sometimes hateful back and forth between people that feel the best way to save the lives of children is different, please stop. Please stop and recognize that. And by the way, I exclude politicians. I exclude people that have taken special interest donations. I exclude people that are selling guns. I exclude people. I'm talking about people, you, me, everyday citizens, not people with agendas. Because ultimately it's down to us. It will always be down to us. It is down to you and I to create a better place in the name of the people that were lost today, and the people that are lost in, well, it's February 15th. There has been, what were we saying, 18 school shootings at this point? It's up to us, you and me, to create some kind of progress in this situation. And by arguing, like I said, we do a tremendous disservice to those that were lost today and every day that something like this happened. So please, whatever form it takes, if you're feeling argumentative, whether it's online or in person, take a beat, take a breath, and remember that ultimately we all want to save the lives of children moving forward. And express yourself bearing that in mind, because the arguments get us nowhere. Now, I don't want to talk about this for too much longer. It's too fresh. There will be a time. There's entire shows that we've done on this in the past, and sadly we keep doing them, where we discuss all of this. But right now, I feel, having discussed the facts, and just urge you to approach every situation that you come across, no matter how you feel, no matter how passionately you feel divided from your fellow human being, to approach every situation and interaction with all this stuff with kindness. I feel as though for today, we have done all that we can do. I think the only other responsible thing that we can do is perhaps heed the advice of law enforcement officials that are dealing with this. Here's Sheriff Scott Israel making a plea for all of us to pay attention to our fellow human beings.
We continually ask you in the media to continually put out the message. If you see something, say something. If anybody has any indicator that someone's going through a behavioral change, or on their social media that there are disturbing photos, perhaps bombs or firearms, or just, videos or pictures that are just not right, that there's something, please make sure law enforcement knows about it.
All right. So, Travis, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I have to add is that I can't believe how well you summed it up, because it's such a terrible story. I mean, I was kind of sick to my stomach going into this show, because I'm like, what do you say about this? I mean, seriously, what do you say about this that doesn't take a side, and that, that brings, how do you bring people together on a horrible tragedy like this? And you did it. I mean, I honestly, I'm not trying to fluff you up or anything like that, but you said it so well. I have no words, and I'm speechless. I literally have nothing to say, because I don't know what to say, but I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you said. You said exactly what I would have said had I known what to say.
Well, I mean, look, this is what we do. This is really what the show's about. The show's about people coming together and talking when they need to talk. Sometimes you just need some conversation while you're making your way home in the car. Sometimes it's the excruciating minutia of life, as the Seinfeld folks so aptly put it. And sometimes it's the big issues like this. But this is a place where I don't care what it is you believe. You're welcome to come and talk. If you feel like you have something to add, please join in the conversation at ADSXE. That's where you can tweet me, or you can email me, ad@iheartradio.com. If you disagree wholeheartedly with me, I'd love to hear from you. If you agree, same deal. But I think really what I want to know is how you feel, because this is where we kind of work things out. No matter what they are, this is a place where we work things out. And we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this when it's appropriate to do so. But for now, besides wanting to express to the people that listen, especially in Florida, that are really going through it with this one, that we are right there with you. There's no way we can fully comprehend and understand, but we are right there with you. And I guess the other thing is, I would very much urge anybody who needs to talk to someone about this, who needs to process in some way, shape, or form, please find somebody to talk to. There's a crisis hotline in Florida, 211. And if you need to talk to someone, please talk to someone. 407-425-2624. I'll say it again. And you can just Google counseling Florida. Or if you're affected by this anywhere, please talk to someone. 407-425-2624. And during the break, I'll pick up some other numbers for you that I want to pass on to you. But it's so important. It's so important that you don't internalize this. It's so important that if you feel like you need to talk to somebody about this, you take every opportunity to do so. And yeah, no, that's all I got to say. That's all. Sorry, this has been a difficult segment. This is a tough one today. How many minutes of quality radio is this segment supposed to be, Travis? Remind me again.
3 minutes and 15 seconds.
As we go into these breaks, Travis will tell me I expect 13 minutes and 50 seconds of quality from you because I'm an idiot. We have been doing this show for years, and I still don't know how long the segments are. I'm like, how long's this one? This one's 7. How long's this one? This one's 13:50. Okay.
Well, you keep spitting out the quality, and I'll spit out the time. I would rather deal with the time than the quality. You seem to do fine with the quality.
Yeah. All right. So there we are. Let's move on, and during the break, I will get a couple more numbers together. But I do want you to know that if you're going through it, we're going through it with you. The key to getting better sleep is sex. Wow, that sounds like something completely and radically different. Quick, let's talk about that. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. All right. So next, I can't do it. I'm sorry. You know what? Let's go to break a little early. I'm going to get some numbers together for you, and just know, like I said, we're there with you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you do feel like you need to communicate, if you do feel like you need to reach out, if you do feel like you need to share what you're talking about, what you're going through, at ADSXE, you can tweet me there, or you can email me, ad@iheartradio.com. God bless you. God bless all of us.
He is in custody, and we've already began to dissect his websites and the things that social media that he was on, and some of the things have come to mind are very, very disturbing. He's 19 years old. He was born in 1998 in September. He was a former student of Douglas High School. He got expelled for disciplinary reasons. I don't know the specifics. I think he might have surfaced at Taravella High School. We're still trying to confirm that. And this morning when he woke up, whether he was a student or not, I don't know. I don't know anything about the firearm at this point. He had countless magazines, multiple magazines, and at this point we believe he had one AR-15 rifle. I don't know if he had a second weapon. We have 17 confirmed victims. 12 victims were within the building. Two victims are outside, just outside the building. One victim is on the street at the corner of Pine Island, and 2 folks, people lost their lives at the hospital. We continually ask you in the media to continually put out the message. If you see something, say something. If anybody has any indicator that someone's going through a behavioral change, or on their social media that there are disturbing photos, perhaps bombs or firearms, or just videos or pictures that are just not right, that there's something, please make sure law enforcement knows about it.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So I apologize for earlier. I wasn't able to keep it together, and I can't really promise that I'm going to be able to keep it together as we continue to talk about this sort of stuff, but I did want to, in a more organized way, bring you a couple of important resources following the shooting in Florida. There is a toll-free crisis line to provide free counseling and referral services to Floridians impacted by the high school shooting in Parkland, courtesy of the folks over at Magellan. Number is 1-800-327-7451. That's 1-800-327-7451. There is the Disaster Distress Helpline. They've got immediate crisis counseling for people affected by the shooting. That number is 1-800-985-5990. 1-800-985-5990. And I'm going to post these on Twitter. At ADSXE is where you can find them. I'll post them on Facebook as well. Again, at ADSXE. The FBI has established a tip line following the shooting. Anyone with information about the Parkland school massacre is asked to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's 1-800-CALL-FBI. There's the National Youth Crisis Hotline. If you're a kid, if you are a youth and you feel affected by this and you want to talk to someone that specializes in dealing with people your age, 1-800-448-4663. That's 1-800-448-4663. Again, I'm going to post all this on my Twitter and Facebook at ADSXE for both of those things. And if you are the person who wants to text your way into some sort of help and advice, that's now available. You can text Connect. Text Connect to 741-741. Text Connect to 741-741. And we'll keep coming back to this when it's appropriate. Right now, I think that we've said all the things that we can or need to say about it. And if you are going through it right now, we are with you every step of the way. Let's awkwardly shift gears now, Travis, and maybe catch up on what's been going on with the Olympics. Shall we do that?
Yes, I haven't really been watching that much, so I'm kind of interested to know what's been going on.
Have you been following what's going on with Shaun White?
I have been following this. You want to talk about an awkward situation?
So we've talked about this a little bit on the show the other day, but he was desperately going after gold. I think this is Shaun's fourth Olympics, and he's just coming to the end of his run for this sort of thing. And he had, I think, 2 terrible runs before his gold medal run. And he said today was the worst day, and then it became the best day. But after winning a gold medal, he was asked about the sexual harassment allegations that were made against him a few years ago. He referred to them as, quote, gossip. And the deal is, in 2016, Shaun was sued for sexual harassment and breach of contract by Lena Zawade, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She used to be the drummer in his band. They reached a settlement last year. The terms were not disclosed. But in the Me Too era, calling it gossip absolutely didn't fly. So yesterday, Shaun apologized, saying, quote, I'm truly sorry that I chose the word gossip. It was a poor choice of words to describe such a sensitive subject in the world today. He's also apologizing for inadvertently dragging the American flag through the snow after winning. He even appeared to step on it.
I didn't see that.
On this one, I'm going to cut him some slack. You're an Olympic athlete walking through snow. You've got the excitement of having just won a gold medal. After it was brought to his attention and he heard that people were upset, he said, I remember being handed the flag, but I was trying to put my gloves on and hold the flag and get the board. So honestly, if there was anything, I definitely didn't mean any disrespect. I'm so sorry for that, but I'm definitely proud, very proud to be part of Team USA and being American and to be representing for everyone. It's clearly not something Shaun White drags flag through snow. We hate this guy. Literally was a response. I was like, oh my goodness. Every time you get up in arms about something like that, where let's just for a moment assume he did do it on purpose. You don't know that. There's no proof of that. And jumping down the guy's throat absolutely destroys the validity of every solid argument you have. Disrespecting the country is a big deal. And if you are truly proud as an American, you're going to choose your words carefully and choose your occasions carefully, because the more you wind up screaming and yelling about things that could very well be a mistake, the more you kind of water down everything else that you're saying, and the more you become the boy, girl, woman, man who cried wolf in this situation. So the people that are giving him a hard time and screaming and yelling about this, it's just, I respect how you feel. It's great that you're passionate, but I don't think you're really moving that ball that you want to move down the field anywhere down the field.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge Shaun White fan, and nothing against the guy. I just really don't much care for him. But the sexual harassment thing, yeah, I could buy that. The flag thing seems a little ridiculous.
It's interesting. It's contextual. I remember when the Louis C.K. thing happened. Louis C.K. did that to numerous people, and many folks were just like, that it was a horrible, awful thing he did. And it absolutely was a horrible, awful thing that he did. But there was another female comedian that came out and said, yeah, Louis asked me if he could do that. I didn't see why, but I thought it was hilarious, so I just let him. Sure, whatever you want, weirdo.
Yeah, I'm that kind of guy. I wouldn't be offended by it. I'd probably look at him and be like, yeah, help yourself. However, that being said, I completely respect the fact that a lot of people, even though they may have said yes or may not have said no, were offended by it. So I get it.
Yeah, and we need to clarify this situation and say, what Louis C.K. did was unquestionably wrong. He used his power and his influence and to put women in a difficult position where he forced them to do something. And he also, I think, was kidding himself about the appropriateness of what he was doing. He was, like that weird, doing that in front of another person is a weird twist on sexual harassment because, as we've discussed in the past, it creates sort of a culpable deniability situation where you can be like, I asked, she didn't seem to have a problem with it. She actually didn't say anything, so I figured it was okay. And you can kid yourself that maybe you're not a creepy, weirdo, sexual harasser, pervert type of guy, and I'm sure that's what Louis was doing. But the Shaun White thing, I have no problem believing that he was like, I'm in a rock band now. This is cool. I've got a hot female drummer. I'm going to say crazy and inappropriate things to her because we're in the world of rock and roll now. And going, oh, I read that wrong. Whoops. I 100% buy that happened. And if they settled it, I'd buy it even more. So maybe he is a creeper, or maybe he was just an idiot that wasn't able to read the room and know what's appropriate because he's in a position where literally the entire world says yes to him at all times. It sounds like I don't like Shaun White. Maybe I don't like Shaun White either. I don't know. I guess I was ambivalent to him either way. So a little bit more going on in the world of the Olympics, including Lindsey Vonn asking for a date on Valentine's Day on social media. We'll get to that next.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So yeah, Shaun White can't catch a break. He's been given a hard time for carrying an Olympic flag. It dragged through the snow. He accidentally stepped on it a little bit, and the internet lost their ever-loving minds. And yeah, I get people are passionate, and that's great. But when you scream and yell about something that could very well be a mistake, you just water down every other argument you have, and you wind up sounding a lot like the boy, girl, woman, or man that cried wolf. And I'm not saying you should, but I'm willing to give Shaun White the benefit of the doubt on this one. Lots of stuff going on in the world of the Olympics. There's another Kim Jong-un lookalike sighting at the Olympics. Have you seen this guy?
No, I haven't. And I'm just curious. Have they said if he is actually at the Olympics?
No, he's not. He sent his sister as a representative. I think it's his sister.
That's right. It was his sister. Okay.
So, there's a speculation that really he's there. But this time, the guy he does look a lot like Lil' Kim. This time, he started dancing in front of the North Korean cheerleaders. So naturally, he got the attention of security, but they were unsure of what to do with him since he wasn't doing anything wrong necessarily except looking a lot like Kim Jong-un. His real name is Howard, and he speaks English with a British accent.
Oh my God.
I don't know if there's an exact polar opposite of Kim Jong, but I would imagine if there is, Howard's pretty close to it in the name department. Oh, here's Shaun White apologizing for saying the sexual harassment allegations against him were gossip.
I'm truly sorry that I chose the word gossip. It was a poor choice of words to describe such a sensitive subject in the world today. And, I'm just truly sorry. And I was so overwhelmed with just wanting to talk about how amazing today was and share my experience. But, yeah.
That's a guy who's had some media training. I'm truly sorry, but I just wanted to talk about how awesome today was. You see how he pivoted at the end of it? He's no noob at this stuff. Here's him talking about the sexual harassment claim, saying that it's gossip.
Matt Gutman, ABC News. Sean, over the past couple of days, the sexual harassment allegations against you by Lena Zawaide have resurfaced. Lena, are you concerned that they are going to tarnish your legacy?
Honestly, here to talk about the Olympics, not, gossip. So, but I don't think so. I am who I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and my friends, love me and vouch for me, and I think that stands on its own. So
absolutely.
But so you're saying that the allegations against you are gossip?
I think we're here to talk about the gold medal and the amazing day we had today. Thank you. So if we don't have another question, why don't we go ahead and just pass the mic? Thank you so much.
I'd like it to be addressed just a little bit. I mean,
like I said, I think we're here to talk about the gold medal today and the amazing day we just had.
I feel like I addressed it.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Do you think that was really shady of the reporter to do the way he did that?
I thought it was really awkward all around. I think reporters in general are shady. That's a terrible thing to say, though.
You know, again, this is what I mean, and I get, like, you know, you're there to ask hard questions, you're there to get the soundbite, you're there to, you know, like, I understand that, but remember we were talking about the fact that there was an English reporter who was presenting a lot of the Olympic coverage, and
just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Right, and I appreciated that because, like, there's a certain lack of egoism in a lot of English people, like, yeah, and like I said, it goes deep. It goes down to there's this thing, like we were talking about the other day, the tall poppy syndrome. If you think you're a little big for your britches, if you're a tall poppy, if you stick your head out above the crowd, an English person is going to lop it right off. Like, that's just sort of like the weird complacency that the British version of socialism has built. That's what I felt when I was living there anyway. But the practical and pleasant upshot of that is you don't get as many people editorializing, like, what does this mean for me? What is my slant on this? What can I do to make the fact that Shaun White won a gold medal something about me? Like, that's the American broadcaster ethos. And sometimes you just, like, you're there at the Olympics, you're there covering the Olympics, and I get that it's part of the conversation that's going on right now, but that was clearly a guy being like, this is my moment.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, he said loud and clear his name at the beginning of the clip, knowing that it would go viral. And it's just, he's like, well, I'd like it addressed a little bit. Well, guess what? You don't make these decisions. You're not calling those particular shots. And I think Shaun White put in a difficult position, and there's a time and a place, and that's the idea. You don't want him on guard. You don't want him trotting out a prepared statement, but
he had to know it was going to come up, though.
Yeah, probably. I think it would have been totally within his rights being like, that's a really relevant and pertinent conversation for a completely different time. If you want to make an appointment to talk about it, you can talk about it. That's probably what I would have done. But I think he was caught off guard a little bit, because he did talk about it too much, and then he used a word, gossip, to describe it that set the internet on fire. So in that situation, had I been Shaun White, I would have gone like, hey, these are important questions that need to be addressed at a different time. Right now, we're talking about sports.
Absolutely. That's the right way to do it.
That's how I would have done it. Bodie Miller said that a skier performed badly because she got married.
But the knee injury just before the 2015-16 season, Bodie, ended her great skiing. Just hasn't been the same since.
And yeah, the knee is certainly an issue. I want to point out she also got married, and it's historically very challenging to race on the World Cup with the family or after being married. It just, not to blame the spouses, but I just want to toss that out there that it could be your husband's fault.
I mean,
I don't know that I disagree with him in a sense.
The other thing is, like, Bodie Miller's skiing career tanked once he got married and had kids, I think.
So maybe he speaks from experience.
No, it was an in-joke. Like, that's the thing. No one really said, he apologized because he made that joke about a skier's marriage getting in the way of her racing. No one really said why he had to apologize. It was just kind of clear that he needed to, but he's a skier. He was the guy who went to the Olympics. Like, I actually worked with this guy a little bit because he had a show on Faction on Sirius XM when I was like the action sports news guy there. So quite often it was like, let's check in with Bodie Miller about this. Blah. And people kind of loved him because he was a very kind of devil-may-care individual as a skier. He went to the Olympics, but he just didn't do well. And people had a problem with it. Like, boy, we were expecting great stuff from you. And he said, well, I partied at an Olympic level. And then he's like, well, you have to understand, me as a professional skier, this happens once every 4 years. Had I medaled in the Olympics, it would have been great. But it's really just a teeny tiny part of what I do. It's the only part that a lot of people are going to see. But it's really, in the grand scheme of things, not that big a freaking deal. So, I partied at Olympic level, and people went, "You're representing America, you cretin." So like the fact that he said that sort of thing and then got a job working for NBC, I was like, are you not familiar with the way this guy goes through life? But the other thing is, he is a skier, in case you didn't know, who got married while he was still racing, and he explained that he was trying to make an inside joke about how people's priorities can change after they get married, because I think his skiing career kind of, tanked progressively after he got married. So I don't know, maybe he was just talking crap about his wife and airing his personal garbage on TV. But I think it was to those that know him and know his career arc, I think everybody knew that, oh, I get it, he's talking about himself. He's making a joke at his own expense. But here's the thing that Bodie Miller freaking forgot. The vast majority of people on planet Earth are not super, super tuned into his career arc and at what point it started going downhill and whether or not that coincided with marriage. So I don't think he meant anything by it. I think he was making a joke at his own expense that nobody got.
It was an awkward statement, but I really, I don't know that I technically disagreed with it, even if it wasn't a joke about himself.
Well, I think, look, Jerry Seinfeld only got married when he was done. He talked about it all the time. He was like, he did not have room for a relationship in his life. It was career, and he let everybody who he dated know that. And then when his career it didn't slow down, but when it became more of an amenable place to sustain a relationship, he had one. But he was very adamant about the fact. Now, here's the double standard. The double standard comes in where he's saying this about, he's really talking about himself, but he's talking about a woman. And, there's just been a long history of people saying, like, women have fought for equal rights in the workplace, and you hear it over and over again. It's absolutely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. But people go, we don't like to hire women because women like to have babies. They're going to be here 4 years. They're going to get engaged. They're going to get knocked up. And then we have to hire someone new. Not interested. I've heard women say this about other women. And trust me on this one when I say it's wrong. It's not okay. It's not cool. It's something that has to go away. But what Bodie Miller smacks of that, what Bodie Miller said, even though it was a joke really at his own expense, it sort of smacks of that, doesn't it?
I guess in a way it does. I look at it like the way that I originally interpreted it wasn't even against women. It was against anyone with a family, trying to balance family and career, especially a career that takes the kind of dedication that does. I don't know how anybody with a family could do it. Not just a woman, but a woman, a man. It seems like if it's just you and you're not worried about, a whole family, balancing family life, it'd be a lot easier to be able to concentrate just on that. But yeah, no, I completely agree that yes, it does really say that. I just think of things so innocently that I never even saw that as a possibility, but I definitely agree.
Well, it's one of those things where it's not, was he directly offensive? Did he mean to be offensive? Was this a knock on women? No, it was a joke at his own expense. And, also an observation about what happens to careers when you have a family, whether you're a man or a woman. But we live in a day and age where I guess that's that phrase. Tone deaf. He was a little tone deaf. He had a failure to read the room in 2018.
That is it.
And he didn't recognize that, people wouldn't get the in joke because people didn't know Bodie Miller's career, and people just went, hey, that sounded an awful lot like a knock on women and their ability to perform because they're a woman and because they, perhaps want to have families and get married. And that's a thing that people have been fighting against for a very, very long time. And he was insensitive to that. And I guess that's the thing. He was, this is almost the textbook dictionary definition of being insensitive to something, meaning he wasn't sensitive to it. He didn't understand it. He's never, he just wasn't aware. You also got to bear in mind, this is a guy that's not dealt with normal workplace politics. He's not aware of an HR manager being like, we're not going to hire a female because she wants to have babies, because he spent his entire career on slopes trying to go fast. He doesn't know about workplace politics. That's not his wheelhouse.
Well, if he feels lonely, he could probably go hang out with Shaun White and they can discuss how people just don't understand him and don't understand the things that they say.
Yeah, I'm sure there would have a lot to talk about after this particular Olympics. Okay, Shaun, pretty soon your career is going to be over like mine, and you're most likely going to go into broadcasting. Here's what not to do when talking. Here's what not to do when they hand you a microphone. In fact, why don't you just take a tape of me on mic and whatever I do the opposite in a Costanza-esque way. Do whatever I do the opposite. Hey, I think we're running out of time, and I just wanted to say one last time that the toll-free number to access free confidential counseling services in the wake of the Parkland shooting in Florida is 1-800-327-7451. That's 800-327-7451. The Disaster Distress Helpline provides immediate crisis counseling, and you can reach them at 1-800-985-5990. That's 1-800-985-5990. Or if you like to text Connect to 741-741. That's Text Connect to 741-741. There's the National Youth Crisis Hotline, which is 800-448-4663. And finally, the FBI has established a tip line. That's 800-CALL-FBI. That's 1-800-CALL-FBI if you know anything at all. God bless us. God bless all of us.
I just hate you so